I think for me, and what I want to ask my colleague about was, I don't know in what world anybody thinks, even when they're angry, when they're emotional, that they can go and physically touch somebody. I think that's something that we all recognize is just absolutely, it's a no. A school teacher can't do it. Nobody in a workplace could do it. It's just an absolutely no. You might be able to walk over to someone and speak to them directly, but to physically touch them is so unbelievable to have seen it and to have seen the Prime Minister do it. I'm wondering if my colleague can talk about that, and she talked about it being very unsettling, and I think as we all think about it, it's concerning, because if that is the reaction of the Prime Minister when he gets angry, and when he gets angry in this public place where cameras are on and where he is being held to the highest account, what kind of signal does that send, not only here, but to Canadians who are watching? I don't think any of us I never ever anticipated that I would see what I saw yesterday here in our chamber, right in front of my eyes, and I never imagined that I would be speaking to something like this, but it's where we find ourselves, and so I want to speak to this motion and talk about a couple of things. I want to talk about this on a human level and what happened in terms of one human being to another human being, and the kind of effect that it has on all of us, and the kind of example that it sets for all Canadians, for young people who are watching, for children, for people who are aspiring to this job. I want to talk a little bit about that, and then I want to talk also about just the ramifications as far as what we've been seeing happening over the last number of weeks with the government asserting itself over the opposition. Yesterday, Mr. Speaker, we saw somebody lose their temper, and I imagine that frustration and anger has probably been building up, and maybe some of it is tied to things that we don't even know about. Sometimes in life that happens, and we go to work and things have been pressing at us, and there are things going on, and then our co-workers are kind of annoying us, and our co-workers are doing things that we wish they wouldn't do, and we get angry and we get frustrated. But what is not acceptable in the workplace, it's acceptable to speak to that individual. It would have been even unusual had the Prime Minister walked over and spoken to our government or our chief opposition whip. But what wasn't and what is not acceptable in the workplace is for that temper outburst to then translate into a physical touching and physical pushing the person that you're angry at around. That isn't acceptable. And in the workplace, if something like that had happened, dare I say, if a friend of mine had said to me, today I just got elbowed in the chest by my coworker or my CEO because he was angry at another coworker and he was trying to push that coworker somewhere, that would have been a huge workplace incident. The CEO or the co-worker who did it, I don't necessarily, I see our Prime Minister definitely as the CEO. He's in charge of our country, but I do consider him a co-worker here in this place. I think we are all equal in this House. I think we all are equal as far as we're all elected. So I would say that the Prime Minister is my co-worker. It would never, ever be acceptable for that kind of action to take place. And if that co-worker who had lost his temper and came charging over and elbowed people and all of the things that happened, even if that person said, I'm sorry, there would be consequences and there would be actions to ensure that it didn't happen again. There would be some discussion about why did that happen? Why are you so frustrated with your job? Are there other things going on? How do you get help so that you don't do that again? Because I can tell you in my experience, whether it's at home, whether it's, I used to work in schools, I worked with children in schools, I've seen teachers, my sister was a nurse, I've seen a lot of work situations, and I've seen people get angry or upset or frustrated. It's rare to see that physical outburst and rare to see somebody physically laying their hands on another person. So that is concerning for me. I will be blunt, that the Prime Minister felt that he lost it that much that he would charge over and do what he did in this place, being so public, cameras, all of us around, the very men and women that he's leading. That concerns me regarding his judgment and his state of mind at that time. So that's one piece of this that I don't think we should ignore, and I think that we need to, and I hope nobody on the other side is laughing.
Yeah, true. Well, of course.
Yeah, but maybe this is, I saw some of them cheering when he charged over here.
They all stood up.
So, Mr. Speaker, I want to just say, too, it was a choice that the Prime Minister made. It was not an accident. An accident is if I'm walking down the hall and I trip, and in tripping I accidentally bump into somebody else. That's an accident. If I charge over across the hallway in anger, elbowing my way through, it's not an accident, it's a choice. The Prime Minister made a choice. He made a choice in this House of Commons, and there has to be consequences, and he needs to do something about his anger. That's something that we have to, let's call a spade a spade. He has anger issues, and he needs to figure out how to control them.
Brock.
I also, I'm going to just mention this very quickly. Last Parliament, there were two individuals who were accused of harassing other members of Parliament. Those two accused were part of the Liberal Party, and at the time, the now Prime Minister, but the leader of the Liberal Party, he was judge, jury, and sentencer, and he immediately got rid of those two Liberal MPs, and their careers were destroyed, and they are absolutely finished. Different set of actions. We don't actually even know what happened in that case, but I would say that that's something also that has to be taken into consideration. Let's hope there's not one standard for certain MPs and then another standard for the Prime Minister. Now, and this also has absolutely nothing to do with the tone in the House of Commons or what the NDP might have been doing yesterday, the day before, the day before. This isn't about the Conservatives. This is not about us in any way. This is only about one thing, and it's about the choices that the Prime Minister made yesterday. So threefold. We need to see this Prime Minister take personal responsibility in terms of this was not a mistake or an accident. He has to deal with his anger issues and his temper and entitlement or whatever that was. I'm not a psychologist, and I'm not about to try to define that. He has to withdraw motion 6 in order to bring some civility back to this place. And the whole issue of this going to committee, there'll be no credibility in it if it's just proc with the Liberal majority and they just push it through as quickly as they can and hope it all goes away. This has to be dealt with on those three levels, and I certainly hope that it will be. Sometimes too, we get up and ask a question or answer a question and are indignant, but we talk amongst each other, and we find a way to get along and be collegial. So I think certainly, though, when we see a Prime Minister sticking out his tongue, doing childish things like that, it really is, it's hard to watch and hard to see why he would continue it. It's so disrespectful for the Prime Minister to come across the aisle figuratively and do what he did yesterday, which is slam us all in the head, really, and say, no, you can't do your job. Sit down, shut up. That's disrespectful. But I would like, again, a sorry is not enough in this case. It wouldn't be in the workplace. It wouldn't be in any other situation. So a sorry is much as appreciated, but it's a first step of a lot of other steps that have to take place. And again, I just think on a personal level, he needs to figure out why he did that, and because it wasn't just an accident, it was a choice, and it was a well thought out choice. So on a personal level, he needs to think about that and deal with it. This is what he has to answer. Here in the House of Commons, he has to show, if he wants to have a fresh start and have some credibility in the House, he needs to show that by withdrawing motion 6 and then not stopping and ending debate in the way that he's proposed. Thank you.